The Forgotten Asylum. In the outskirts of a small, forgotten town, hidden deep within the tangled woods, stood an abandoned asylum. Gray walls, cracked and overgrown with ivy, rose ominously against the backdrop of gnarled trees and an ever-present mist. The asylum, once known as Ravenwood Sanitarium, had been closed for decades, but the air around it still hummed with an unsettling energy, a silent testament to the horrors that transpired within its walls. The story of Ravenwood was one of unspeakable cruelty and madness. In the early 1900s, Dr. Elias Crowley, a man with a reputation for groundbreaking yet controversial psychiatric treatments, established the asylum. His methods, however, were far from humane. Patients were subjected to barbaric experiments, their screams echoing through the corridors. Many believed Crowley had gone mad himself, consumed by his quest to unlock the secrets of the mind. One cold autumn night, a fire broke out, engulfing the asylum in flames. When the smoke cleared, the asylum was in ruins, and the charred remains of patients and staff were found scattered throughout the building. Dr. Crowley's body was never recovered, and rumors swirled that he had escaped, his spirit lingering in the ruins, forever tied to the site of his heinous deeds. Years passed, and the asylum remained untouched, a grim relic of the past. But curiosity has a way of drawing people to the forbidden, and one fateful Halloween, a group of paranormal investigators decided to explore Ravenwood, hoping to capture evidence of the supernatural. The group consisted of 4 members: Alex, the fearless leader; Sarah, the skeptic; Mark, the tech expert; and Emily, the medium. Armed with cameras, EVP recorders, and an array of ghost hunting gadgets, they set out to document their findings. As they approached the asylum, a chill settled over them, and the forest seemed to grow darker, the trees closing in as if to warn them away. Inside the asylum was a labyrinth of decaying rooms and dark hallways. The air was thick with the stench of mold and something else, something rotten. The walls were covered in peeling paint and strange, dark stains that resembled long, dried blood. Shadows seemed to dance just out of sight, and the silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional drip of water from a leaking pipe. As they ventured deeper into the asylum, Emily began to feel a presence. She could sense the pain and suffering that lingered, like a wound that refused to heal. The team set up their equipment in what appeared to be the main ward, a large room lined with rusted beds and broken restraints. They began their investigation, asking questions into the dark, hoping for a response. Hours passed with little activity, but just as they were about to call it a night, their equipment went haywire. The temperature plummeted, and a cold, unnatural breeze swept through the room. Their cameras flickered, capturing fleeting images of shadowy figures moving in the darkness. Suddenly, Emily screamed, clutching her head in agony. She collapsed to the floor, whispering frantically about a man in a white coat, his eyes filled with madness. The others tried to help her, but a violent force seemed to hold them back. The room grew darker, and the shadows took shape, becoming grotesque figures with hollow eyes and gaping mouths. Alex shone his flashlight towards the far end of the room, where a figure stood. It was Dr. Crowley, his face twisted into a malevolent grin. His eyes, once human, now glowed with an unholy light. He raised a hand, and the shadows surged forward, enveloping Mark. His screams echoed through the asylum as he was pulled into the darkness, his body contorting in unnatural ways before vanishing completely. Sarah and Alex grabbed Emily, trying to make their way to the exit, but the asylum seemed to come alive, doors slamming shut and corridors shifting. They found themselves in the basement, a place of nightmares. The walls were lined with rusted chains and blood-stained surgical instruments. The smell of death was overpowering. Dr. Crowley's voice echoed through the basement, taunting them. "You cannot leave. You belong to Ravenwood now." Sarah was the next to fall. her body lifted off the ground and thrown against the wall with a sickening crack. Her lifeless eyes stared at Alex and Emily as they ran, desperation driving them forward. They found themselves in the old operating theater, where the worst of Crowley's experiments had taken place. The room was filled with ghostly apparitions, patients reliving their final moments in eternal torment. Crowley appeared once more, scalpel in hand, his laugh chilling them to the bone. Emily, summoning all her strength, confronted him. "You're just a ghost, bound by your sins. You have no power here." But Crowley's laugh only grew louder. "You think I'm bound? I thrive in this darkness. It is you who are bound, by your fear." In a final act of defiance, Alex grabbed a rusted pipe and swung at Crowley. The specter dissipated into a cloud of shadows, but the victory was short-lived. The shadows closed in, and Alex felt their icy grip around his throat. With his last breath, he pushed Emily towards a hidden door, shouting for her to run. Emily stumbled into a hidden tunnel, the walls narrowing as she crawled through the darkness. She could hear the whispers of the dead, feel their cold breath on her neck, but she pushed on. Finally, she emerged into the forest, the asylum's silhouette looming behind her. She never spoke of that night again, but the horrors of Ravenwood remained with her, a constant reminder of the evil that lurked in the shadows. The asylum stood as a monument to madness, its dark history forever etched in the memories of those who dared to enter. And in the deepest part of the night, if you listen closely, you can still hear the screams of the damned echoing through the trees.
I'll never let you go.